Welcome back to Divorce After 50. I'm Sherry Frazier, a realtor who specializes in helping people navigate housing transitions after divorce. Today's episode hits close to home for a lot of my clients, and maybe for you too, because we're talking about what happens when divorced parents share space at a wedding, and not just any wedding, their child's wedding. This can be a beautiful opportunity to show unity and love, or a breeding ground for conflict, resentment, and tears. I've seen both, and today we're going to talk about why that is and what you can do to be the best version of yourself on your child's big day. To help me unpack it all, I'm joined by Sarah Burton, aka the Wedding Whisperer, and owner of Simply Love Studio. Sarah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such an important conversation because, like you, I've seen some wedding day moments that were incredibly touching and some that were incredibly tense.
Yes, and let's start with a few examples because this stuff happens. It really happens.
Yep.
I knew someone whose daughter broke down in tears on her wedding day because her dad refused to be in a photo with his ex-wife. And the worst part, he had told her before the wedding that he didn't have a problem with it. It put the bride in tears and the photographer in a really uncomfortable spot.
I've seen that too. And that actually happens a lot on wedding days whenever the parents actually get to the wedding and they see each other, those feelings change. And that puts the photographer in an uncomfortable position. It puts the planner in an uncomfortable position. And all of a sudden, they are in the middle of a family standoff. And when somebody gets, confrontational during family portraits, it literally delays everything. And even worse than delaying it, it just shifts the energy. And if you're doing like a first look and family portraits before the ceremony, that is the last thing that we need because you just see the couple just start to crumble emotionally.
Oh, yeah. That's a very sad thing to witness and be part of. And then there was another time that I knew with during the father-daughter dance, the dad purposely turned his back on the ex's family, not during the ceremony, during the dance, the father-daughter dance. It ruined the whole moment that should have been sweet. And she held it together, but you could see it on her face. That kind of behavior lingers in your memory forever, and it kind of ruins that special moment.
Those are absolutely the moments that the bride, the couple, that they are going to remember more than the cake, more than the music, more than the flowers. They are going to remember how they felt in those certain moments. And parents don't always realize how big of an emotional imprint that they are leaving behind. And you mentioned the ceremony just now. One of the biggest hurdles that we run into is where everyone is going to sit during the ceremony. And the couple is usually very aware that this is going to be a struggle from the beginning because typically the parents will all sit on the front row together. And, ceremonies are typically less than 30 minutes. It's okay to share your request as parents with the couple, but ultimately the couple and the planner are going to do what's best for the couple on the wedding day.
Right. Yeah, and you're put in that position to make sure everything goes smoothly. And, so much stress happens before the wedding. I've heard brides say that they felt like they were a referee in a tiara. Sometimes the moms wants to control every detail, the colors, the dress, the menu, and even the guest list. It's not coming from a bad place. It's just usually coming from a place of like that always been the one in charge, but it can really crowd the bride out on her own day.
Absolutely. And especially when mom sees herself as the primary parent and
Mhm.
assumes it's her show to run, but the wedding is about the couple. And if you're a divorced parent, you have to check your ego and think, am I doing this for me or am I doing it for them?
Mhm. Exactly. And then that's where money talks. I worked with families where the dad refused to contribute, not because he couldn't afford it, but because he didn't want the money to benefit his ex in any way. And it's not always pettiness, it's just from plain stubbornness. And suddenly the wedding starts to feel more like a negotiation instead of a celebration.
It's heartbreaking, where the couple or where the parents are going to sit during the ceremony and who's paying for what. is probably the two biggest struggles that we see with divorced parents for the wedding. And the couple ends up caught up in the middle of it, just trying to manage everything so that there's not resentment, there's not power plays. And I've seen couples, postpone their decisions or even shrink the wedding down just because they don't want to deal with the drama of anything happening.
Yeah, that's just a shame. Let's dive into some what if situations that are too real for divorced families.
Sometimes we will see that both parents want to walk the daughter down the aisle, and that has probably become more of a recent trend lately. And sometimes
Yeah.
maybe the parents don't necessarily both want to walk at the same time, but they both want to be a part of that. Sometimes one parent will walk them halfway, and then the other parent will walk the other half. There are so many things and so many different ways that you can get creative. Mom can always stand up with the bride once father and daughter get to the altar instead of, the father giving her away. It can be we do. So there are definitely ways that you can manage those kind of things to where both parents feel equal. And that's something you could talk with your coordinator about too, because they have so much experience with this and they have seen couples try different things and they can kind of work with you on what has worked and what hasn't.
Yeah, and I think that we get caught up in the tradition of things and it doesn't have to always be that way. And I know that it still feels like, it's kind of weird if you've been to several weddings and how things were done when you got married, but it doesn't have to always be that way. And I do appreciate that, your experience would help give some ideas and, you know, but that all really needs to happen prior to the ceremony. You need to already have that ironed out and make that decision.
We're going to have those
Um,
conversations months in advance.
yeah, right. And so the expectations are already set up. And managing your emotions needs to take place too. You need to you're just as a mother, I had to uh keep my emotions in check. It wasn't about me and really be considerate of my child and just try really hard not to bring any of that into their wedding day. Um,
Absolutely.
it it's sometimes hard, and I think also that the crowd is kind of watching to see how you behave, what you do.
100%. Yes.
So you're on display as well as the
Mhm.
bride and groom.
Yep.
Have you ever had a situation where the stepmom insisted on wearing white or black or
Um, that topic definitely comes up. I have not had them actually show up in it. I have had certain people maybe threaten to, um, but that is something to where the bride and groom will typically want to have those conversations again before the wedding. If they have any concern, like, show me your outfit. What are your accessories? Do you have a
Uh-huh.
backup if you put this dress on that morning and you absolutely hate it? Because, us females, we plan an outfit for 6 months and we put it on and we hate it. So always have a backup too. But a lot of times, the couple will ask to see that and literally approve of it. And a lot of times, stepmom or girlfriend will do a matching dress to go along with dad's like tie to kind of tie in with some of the colors. A lot of times it's really good for all the females and the males to discuss the colors that they're wearing because, they are going to hopefully be in pictures together. But having those conversations beforehand so that everybody matches because, the family photos are super important and we want everybody to be cohesive and no one to be disrespectful if the bride does not want anyone wearing white or ivory. And two,
Yeah.
like a lot of couples now, a lot of brides have been wearing black, they've been wearing pink dresses, and they may give instructions on the invitation that they want everyone to wear white. There was a wedding at the Signature Club a couple years ago where she wanted everybody in white, and it was beautiful. So just follow the instructions from the couple on what to wear and what not to wear.
Yeah, that's really good advice. So, what would you say to a controlling mom? Because I'm sure you get lots of those.
Step back. You're here to support your child. You're not here to direct them. Trust them. your job is to help them shine and for you to not steal the spotlight. Like you mentioned, there are going to be eyes on you that day. And, hopefully your child, the couple, they have a planner. And if they need to be there to step in and kind of control things and have plans in place, like we can absolutely do that. But just don't steal the spotlight on the wedding day.
Yeah. I have to tell him this was like years and years ago. It was my brother's wedding, and I did not even think about what I was wearing, and it was bright pink, and it was, had a good tan. It was summertime, and I think, offended the bride because I kind of outshined her, and just because of the color I wore, and it didn't even dawn on me that that would be the case, and I can imagine if I had been the stepmom or you the girlfriend, that would not have been good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get what you're saying. And so, I know that a lot of times the dad is real resentful and he doesn't want to pay unless he gets his way. Sometimes they don't wanna pay, period, but have you ever had that situation? How'd you handle that?
Like I mentioned, where everybody's gonna sit during the ceremony and the money is always the trickiest thing. And
Yeah.
sometimes parents will commit to paying X amount or giving the couple X amount. And then something might happen and they essentially say, no, we're not giving you that money anymore. Um, and then that just starts a whole different set of hurdles. And you don't want your child to remember, you don't want them to have a grudge. You want them to remember, your generosity. This isn't about your ex, it's about showing love to your child, even if it's uncomfortable for you, because they are going to remember that. Don't tell them that you can give them $20,000 for the wedding if you can realistically only give them eight. Don't get their hopes up. If you
Mhm.
can't contribute any at all, that's okay. Don't tell them that you can. And don't feel less than if the other parent is giving more than you are. It's money. You know, as long as you are there for them and supportive of them, that's what they're going to remember the most.
Right. And I definitely think that, that children, remember the absence of one or the other parent. So, you know, try to do what you can to get, to be civil and make sure that both of you are there. Have you ever had when a step parent wanted to be involved and help make decisions or do something that it's not their place to do?
Not too often. Typically, when the step parent is super involved, it's because the couple wanted them involved. And there are times where dad and stepdad have both walked, the bride down the aisle, or dad and stepdad have been groomsmen. Um,
Mhm.
but it's also as a step parent or a significant other of a parent, it's about knowing the role that you have played in that child's life, but also respecting the space. If you're not 100% sure what your role is or what it needs to be, it's okay to ask. Let them lead that and tell you how they want to be involved. Don't overstep because you're going to be around for years to come. You still have Christmases, you still have birthdays, you have all the holidays. You
Right.
don't want anything to be awkward afterwards. You don't want any resentment in that area as well because you overstepped or they think you overstepped. So just have those honest conversations. It's hard to have those, but it's going to make things so much easier and everybody's going to be on the same page when you have those.
Yeah, that's really a good point. I know sometimes the adult child, either party, the bride or the groom, is stuck in the middle between the parents. And it could be that they had just got a divorce or they're not yet divorced, or, it's been a long time and there's not been any kind of reconciliation of any sort. How do you handle that? How do you help them through that?
It's important, to set those boundaries early. Have those conversations, but we don't want to be doing group texts. If we need to put it in writing, we can do that in email so that everybody is on the same page. Be clear, be kind. You can't control anyone else's behavior, but you can make your expectations known. And that's important to do that as soon as you can, or as soon as you know that there could be any type of an issue.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So when all goes well, it's absolutely beautiful. And I once saw a dad hug his ex-wife during the ceremony and say, "We did good, didn't we?" And that moment softened the whole atmosphere and everyone relaxed. And it just turned out to be just a beautiful wedding.
Absolutely. I've seen divorced parents sit at the same table They do toast together. I've seen, stepmoms and birth moms hug, and the couple, it makes them feel so loved. They're so much happier. They're more able to be in the moment. And that's what we are aiming for. We want that support from everyone. And again, talking about all eyes on you, they're all eyes on you when they're seeing that as well. And I would say probably 9 out of 10 times, everything goes very smooth when parents are divorced. And they really are there for their children, for the couple, and they truly want the best for them, and they're not being selfish and putting themselves ahead of them. We want the active support from the parents, and I would say 9 out of 10 times, everything goes very smoothly with divorced parents, and it makes a world of difference on the wedding day. We talked about how all eyes can be on the divorced parents. They can also be on the divorced parents and seeing how good of a job they are doing at co-parenting, regardless of how old their child is.
That is very true, and, they don't have to be best friends, they don't even have to really like each other, but they do need to show up as adults. Sarah, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom. This has really been helpful, and I think that, just hearing the scenarios that can take place would help parents, avoid those kind of situations. Where can couples or where can people connect with you?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sherry, so much for having me. This is something that I'm very passionate about. When you first mentioned this, I was all about it because it is something that we see every single weekend at every single wedding. So I'm glad that we could talk a little bit more about it and just, help couples and parents to know to set those boundaries ahead of time. You can find my Instagram. It is Simply Love Studio, or my website is simplylovestudio.com. And all of my information about the Wedding Whisperer podcast can be found on those as well. And I'm always happy to talk about weddings and how we can do them with grace.
And one thing we didn't talk about, this doesn't have to be parents, it can be grandparents as well. I've seen
Yes.
grandparents act just as bad.
Yeah.
We will link this in the show notes. And if you're a divorced parent, remember that this is your child's wedding. Be the peace, not the storm. Thanks for listening to Divorce After 50. Take care of yourself and the people you love.